Good afternoon, whale community, and welcome to another episode of the Makersplace X Whale community chat edition, where we have Federico Solmi from originally Bologna, Italy, and is now in New York. So it is very awesome to have you here and joining us to share your art and your journey. This is something that I think is really exciting because he has a lot of history working with multiple different mediums, a multimedia artist indeed, and gave me a short tour of his studio earlier. So we were able to take a look at that and see some of the inspiration that he's bringing to not only the art space as a whole, but also his new Makersplace drop, Reels, which is focusing on silent films. So, Federico, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
My pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Very, very happy to have you join us. And I'm going to pull up on the screen here, actually, the website for Maker's Place, which will have information about your drop, because I think that's exciting to share. And that way we can have a little bit of that background, starting in Italy and then coming to New York. And how did your artistic journey start? And I guess how did traveling also tie into that inspiration there?
Well, I think like my background is very unconventional, and I never really attend any art school, but I always wanted to be an artist. And when I was 25 years old, I decided the best place to do my art and career would be to move to New York. And I moved to New York, and I started very humbling, and I moved to Brooklyn. I was very lucky that I got in touch with some really great artists in the early phase in an era where Brooklyn became little by little the center of production of contemporary art. And like step by step, I start to meet artists and start to show in gallery in Brooklyn. And step by step, I was able to start to exhibit in Manhattan, in the city. And basically, I find myself with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of young people, and I felt I have a lot of things to say, and I took the big risk to go into the Big Apple, and step by step, I create my own space, and I was able to engage with wonderful people, and especially I was lucky enough to see some of the most amazing exhibition in the museum and in the gallery, which they helped me a lot to develop my poetic. And step by step, I became very interested into new technology, in particular gaming technology. I did my first video animation using gaming engine back in 2004, which was pretty crazy. I remember that some of the curators will tell me, "Oh, what the hell are you doing? Gaming? Oh, gaming is terrible. What are you doing? You're wasting your time." So, but when I start to see the potential of digital and gaming technology, I thought it was like an aesthetic revolution, and I became very interested into this world. And basically, I figured out a way how to create narrative video combining gaming technology with drawings and paintings. So, and step by step, I was able to start to get into museum show, start to get into gallery show, start to have, a group of loyal collector, and step by step, I become very interested into moving image, without never abandoning my passion for drawings and paintings, and of course my passion to tell stories, and step by step, I came to also to NFTs, I did my first drop in NFT world early 2021, and I was very lucky to find some great support, and things step by step, I built my career.
And that is an amazing journey thinking about this because, as you mentioned, you've actually been creating art and then feeding it through this gaming engine, this technology, since the early 2000s. That is a
Yeah.
very, I would say, non-traditional way to get into animation or, the moving art, because now you're looking into old cinematography and reels,
Yeah.
and so it's almost the reverse order that you would expect those things to happen. And how has that influenced, the art that you're creating, looking at it in the
Well, like
retrospect?
it's been but it's strange, because I remember like it was yesterday, everything happened when I bought this. I think it was the PlayStation 2, and I bought the Grand Theft Auto, which at the time was a game that was incredibly criticized, because it was very violent. But of course, I didn't care about all of these things that were going into the media. I just saw that the potential of creating a parallel war using digital technology and create some visual some visual animation using gaming and then translate it with my draftsmanship into drawings was something revolutionary, and step by step, I start to figure out, instead of using, the game that I could buy, I said, what about I start to create my own assets? What about I start to hire 3D digital developer, and step by step, I basically build like a studio in which I will hire, 3D developer to create, digital assets and digital character to create my own story. And step by step, I start to, having some strong response and start to get the first financial support by collector, and things that just get bigger and bigger. And I end up in 2019 to create a huge installation in Times Square, all over the screen in New York. And I start to work a lot with public spaces. So everything starts very small with a very small clip of 1 minute back in 2004, and with the passion, the love for what I'm making, and the vision of how the world will evolve and how important will be digital technology in our life. I believe that I was doing the right things, and step by step, I just work as much as I can to make this dream possible.
And I think that's really interesting because I was looking at your social media earlier and looking at both Instagram and Twitter, which we can scroll through Twitter here momentarily, and we'll get to the drop information in a little bit. But, as you're talking about crafting the metaverse, we can actually see in the previews of your art, kind of that 3D rendering that's happening, because,
Yeah.
you get all of the different, geometric shapes that are building
Yeah. Yeah.
each image, as well as, the throwback to 2013, so some art that you had created. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a really interesting thing, seeing how the art is built, and, you referenced building the metaverse. So here you are taking that art and actually showing the visualizations behind what would just be
Mm-hmm.
an otherwise flat image. So that's really interesting how, you took this from Grand Theft Auto as a start, and seeing
Yeah.
how they built a world and how you could then extend that world, and that is really
Yeah.
interesting.
I feel I've been in the metaverse for 20 years. People are talking about the metaverse. It's crazy because the word of metaverse was invented in 1991 by Neil Stevenson in this book called Snow Crash. And that's how long it takes for the mainstream to understand the great vision that a lot of great artists has. It takes 30 years. How long it takes to Van Gogh to be understood? Same. So the thing is this, there is some great visionary people out there. They take an enormous risk, and also they help artists like me that they're trying to envision the future, and this I feel toward Neil Stevenson, I have an incredible depth toward him. But at the same time, all of these contents that are out there, there's just few people that are going to understand these great contents. So for me, with my background, growing up in my town in Bologna, I was surrounded by frescoes. I was surrounded by great Renaissance art. Despite I was not surrounded by art in my home, I felt that when you were going to visit a church, you were in a sort of immersive environment, So, and to me later, when in 2017 I started to create virtual reality experience, in the back of my mind, I always thought that VR was simply an extension of the frescoes, So this sort of immersive experience that will bring the viewer to a very emotional status, emotional level to connect with the art. So for me, I think in a way I'm very unconventional. I'm very projected into the future, but at the same time, I feel so in depth to the old masters and to the artists that inspire me, and they're still inspire me, that I can never stop to thank them. I feel I just have the luck to be surrounded by very interesting people that they feed me also with idea and great conversation, and somehow, because I'm very committed to what I do, I simply translate into art, into drawings, into NFT, into video installation, all of this incredible amount of good idea that are around me, from people that I'm in discussion with.
And I think it's really interesting,
So
as we've been scrolling through your Twitter and looking at your art, how much those, old masters have influenced the art that you're creating, because you've taken a lot of, historical imagery, almost like the way the faces are designed. It really is reminiscent of, what I would expect from those frescoes and those classics. And now you're taking that and transforming that into, fitting it into the metaverse and giving it, kind of that rigging behind it, 3D, the
yeah,
backbone, that is a really fun integration, that juxtaposition of the old and the very new in the future. So
thank you.
yes,
Well,
that's
to
really
me,
exciting to see.
my idea was that my idea was if I wanted to be influential in the world of NFT, in the world of crypto art, which I've been observing for the past few years, it would be that if I come with something extremely original, so, and like I do in all of my career, I always have, my work is really a unique expression of a combination of language that I feel that they are truly unique. That's what I really wanted to be part of, because if I didn't have the right piece for Makerspace to be extremely original versus all of the other projects I've done in NFT, I wouldn't be even here. So, and in fact, what I conceived for Makerspace was to basically create a sort of a series of NFT that they were generated from some of the drawings that I created in the past few months. And I thought about it, how can we combine my influence from early cinema using contemporary character, you see here we have a sort of Warren Buffett that is holding a poodle dog in the same pose of Leonardo da Vinci, the lady with the ermine. And how can I make it unique and that can fit into a metaverse sort of atmosphere? So I started to decide to animate the pastel background, because it's kind of like the pastels is some kind of substance that really feel like a pixelized universe, And my idea was to bring this character not into a traditional world, but to try to bring it into this metaverse atmosphere, because everyone talk about the metaverse, but hasn't been built yet, So, and to me, since I'm very projected into the future, I wanted to create this NFT without forgetting my influence of early cinema, the reels, all of these like flickering texture that they are so important in the silent movie era, like German Expressionists, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, all of these movies that, I admire so much. And so, after a lot of thinking, I came up with the idea to basically try to animate these drawings that, by the way, they're not very traditional drawings. They're drawings that are coming from my, 3D model I developed for my video works, and somehow I decided to bring the digital skeleton of this virtual character and bring it into the physical world. So you see, there is a lot of like combination of going back and forth from traditional work to virtual, and then we go back to, so this kind of like exchange and feed between the analog and the virtual, it really, I think, is the core of my work.
And I would say that definitely is coming through when we're looking at this, because seeing, you have the virtual work and, this 3D, the rigging and kind of the design here, which is a layered thing, because when you're building in virtual worlds, you are layering, and that's, kind of how things
Yes.
are being composed. But that's the same with watercolors. You can't just paint watercolor in one layer and have it come out. You need layers in order to build
Yeah.
up the character and the design. And so having the same concept behind the two different techniques and putting those together in one space is a really interesting way to convey the feeling that you have here. And that's, oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And if I can add something like, that I feel is very dear to me, one of the things about digital tools, digital animation, gaming technology, is that usually they came across as very cold, very detached. So, and to me, I found out this in a very early phase. And I think like, the importance using drawings, importance using pastels, is really to have this sort of like 3D derivative character that somehow they have the organic texture of the physical world. And I think this is extremely important for all I make. To me, I want to enter in the metaverse, but in order to seduce the viewer, to seduce the people, and to make them feel a human contact with what I make, I think is extremely important to bring an organic texture of the whole world,
Well, and I think it's really interesting too, seeing this, because what you've done, and you're known for this, really, looking at your, biography on your site, and if people are aware of your work, the fact that you're kind of rewriting history. So you're making this, allusion to the lady with ermine, but doing that with Warren Buffett and a poodle, or in the other, a founding father dances with Sitting Bull. These are things that would not have happened, and yet we can recreate that in a new reality and completely change the context in which things are happening.
It's true.
That is a
It's
really
true. It's true
interesting way.
because basically, like one of the things that I was thrilled about, my first approach with gaming was that at that time in 2004, I was living in Brooklyn, and I figured out that I could get a video game, still like a police car, going to the car and driving around Brooklyn in a virtual world, which was absurd because I was living in Brooklyn. And then the crazy things that would ever happen, I can also change the radio station 20 years ago. And this is blew my mind that I can go in a car, switch the radio station, and drive into the street which I was living. So basically, the idea that they really gave me was, wow, with all of this digital technology that is a completely aesthetic revolution, I can basically create a complete invented world and create this absurd narrative and still feel that is a real story because because the environment in which I'm creating the story is a sort of like a theatrical stage, but still resemble the street of Brooklyn, the street of New York. So, and that's to me immediately, it just blew me away. And I said, I need 5 to 10 years to put together a strong body of work because they're really time consuming to do animation. And then people will understand the principle of this idea, like, and indeed it took me, I came to New York in 1999. I had this kind of vision, like, and luck in 2004. And by 2009, I was able to get the Guggenheim Fellowship, which is one of the most prestigious awards for in the arts, and that just took me 5 years, but it was 5 years of extreme deep immersion into poetic and a way of making art they were not seen, they were not, like, considered even art, so and I had to struggle a lot to make understand that the world was going into a complete revolution, like, so and that's how long it took, so, and I'm still
And that's
fighting for make it clear that that this is what's happening, like,
And I would say that's really interesting because being able to have that vision, but then pursue it, even though that, as you mentioned, was not something that other people were doing. And so you were going in a direction that was completely new and unexplored and, not even recognized at art is that at that point. And that's
absolutely,
a very interesting pioneering space to be in. We
absolutely.
so we have a question from the chat, wondering how you define immersion and how that impacts what it is you're doing and how that affects the relationship with art.
Immersion.
Immersion, yes. So
Well,
as you mentioned.
like, again, like, to just to understand, like, what kind of experience I develop in the digital media, you just go to my home page of the there is a VR work, like, into the homepage of my website, which is the most unsellable things that an artist can do, and the most expensive things that an artist can do. But I never thought about art in terms of financial. I always experienced art as the most important things in life, and I still remember when I visited the first time, frescoes and the emotion that they gave me, and when I started to play around back in 2017, I was at Yale CC Camp, which is the Center of Contemporary New Media at Yale, where I was teaching. And I did the first work using the Oculus Rift, which was an early machine. And immediately I felt, man, I feel I'm inside of the Sistine Chapel here. So, and I never care about if this piece will sell or don't sell. I just want to bring the viewer into my story, into my poetic, and there is nothing better than bring, like, a viewer inside an immersive experience, like, so the only issue is that all of this huge effort I made into the gallery world, there was never support because this kind of work cannot be sold, so and thanks God, like, I was able to have enough sell with other work to finance this project. But to me, my approach to art was never about our market. Was always about to deliver something unique, something that will speak to the viewer in the emotional level. And if you see this artwork that is in my home website, is entitled The Bacchanalian Ones. And to give an idea, this idea of the Bacchanalians one came from a frescoes by Annibale Carracci that was made in the 17th century, which not many people knew, but was called the Triumphus of Bacchus. It's at Palazzo Farnese in Rome. And to be honest, I never seen these frescoes, myself, because it's basically open once a year, and I never had a chance being in New York to go and see it. But no matter what, with imagination, we can do things without even need to experience. So, but anyway, so it took me 20 years finally to free myself of this early influence of the Triumph of Bacchus and create this VR piece called the Bacchanalian Ones that basically show a series of degenerate war leaders from ancient history, from Alexander the Great to Donald Trump. They're basically meeting into this ancient Roman bathhouse to show their indulgence, to show their detachment to to the citizen, to the people like us. And it's a sort of combination of like ancient Rome and Las Vegas, in fact, you see like some kind of like butterfly dancers that they're flying above the, this kind of like big, ancient bathhouse. And this is an example of how I work, like, bringing the highest technology in the field. And this was a VR work that was done using Oculus Quest as soon as it came out. And we took this machine to an extreme level, like, and that's what this machine is capable of,
Wow, and this is absolutely surreal looking at, as you mentioned, having these leaders from all across the expanse of history, all in one space, kind of fulfilling these very interesting fantasies of this, old Roman bathhouse. With I love the butterfly though that's flying across.
I love it too.
Butterfly dancer.
And the butterfly came from an idea of a movie of Federico Fellini that not many people knows, which was like a short episode called The Clown that he did, I think, in the late 70s for Rai TV. It was a very unsuccessful episode, but I love this short clip. And the influence, you see, the influence comes from cinema, from art, from history. And I forget the most important thing of this work, that everyone from home can go inside this bathhouse through the VR app called the VR community called VR Chat, and you can go inside right now into this project with your own avatar just by signing in with VR Chat and basically search for Federico Solmi in the word search, or you search for bathhouse, and you can go right now with your own avatar to interact with all of the characters.
Wow. So he could join this party that is happening.
Right now.
Wow.
With a PC or with your VR headset.
Interesting. That is a really exciting proposition, being able to, experience art in an entirely immersive way, because that's something that historically people, were able to look at art in the physical form, and then you could look at it digitally, but now you can actually get involved in the art and experience it.
Absolutely. And also to me, it's extremely amazing to just go there and hear what people are saying, because they're talking and they come with their avatar. Some they're like spiders, Some are like some crazy, characters, and I'm just having fun to hear the conversation they have, and it's pretty amazing. It's something that, at least to me, I never heard before, and to be able to give the possibility to the viewer to come into my universe for free and interact with my character. I mean, it's something incredible. It's better than any sale that I ever done in my life,
Well, and I guess that maybe lends the question, how
Mm-hmm.
how does that make you feel seeing people interacting with your art? Because, as you mentioned, that's more valuable than, things selling, but being able to see not just people interacting, but how they're interpreting your art, because I imagine there's a wide range of responses people have provided to you.
Well, I think again, if you go to this platform, which is this community, which is considered the largest community of VR chat, you don't see anything like this ever, So to me, what I hope by bringing unique contents and unique aesthetic, what I hope is just to make an impact, So I mean, that's all, Obviously, these things took forever to be built. It it took a lot of resources, financial resources, with even the hope to make a dime. So that show my commitment into this community, So and that's where I stand. That if I believe that something is revolutionary and will help to build my legacy as an artist committed to a community, committed to my own aesthetic and conviction. As long as I can survive and be alive to create art, I'll do it, and I'm super happy about doing it.
And I think that is really an amazing foundation for, being an artist within the metaverse, because, one of the big things that we've seen, and I will say I've been part of the NFT space for the last 4 years now. And the biggest thing that I've noticed is projects and artists do not generally find success without community. And that's something that perhaps is a new realization to a lot of people, how important community is to
Yeah.
the expression and the consumption of art and the experience as a whole.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, to be honest, I feel extremely lucky. I think, that it's very difficult to jump into the NFT world if you don't have the foundation, if you don't have anyone that has been in the space for a long time. I was very lucky. I was brought into the art community, the NFT community, by a very influential NFT collectors. And as soon as I did my first drop in super rare, I had incredible support by top collectors. So because in a way they saw me as an artist who was using the same tools 10 years before NFT started, So, and I had a bunch of important artists in the NFT world space that they start to buy my work, and they were retweeting all of my stuff, So, and to them I'm very grateful, and because they allow me to be immediately influential in a space that I enter very humbly, very humbly. I did all of my research, and then very soon, as soon as I made a few sales, I started to buy NFT myself, So which I thought was something that was very important to support back the community. And yeah, this is this is still we're still in a very early phase, if you talk to any 13 years old or 14 years old, they're really excited about the NFT. That's all they talk about, So, and to me, I feel very blessed that I was able to jump in a way early on, and to be in touch with people that they were able to teach me a lot about this space, too, despite my early engagement with digital tool and VR and all of these kind of things, because at the end is a very particular world, which is at the moment is also overwhelmed about contents, So, but to me, again, what is the most important is that I create something very original that immediately will identify with collector and with art lover that what I do is very unique, So that's what is important at the end.
And I would say maybe that is a good transition to looking a little bit more at the drop that you're doing, because you mentioned, the importance of having things that are unique. And so looking at your drop here, which is entitled Reels and is, very reminiscent of, taking the inspiration from the old silent films and having kind of that flickering. We can see that in the background here.
Yeah.
But there are 3 pieces and they are all editions of one. So that gets on that
Yes.
uniqueness. There's,
Yeah.
not editions as we've seen, from some other drops. These are simply 3 editions of
No,
one that are available. And
absolutely. So yeah, to me in this case, I wanted to have something very different from all of the other work that I'm doing in different platform, and basically I hope this is a beginning of like a series of animated drawings that I would like to make. So to me, it's very important the fact that they are unique pieces. So because I want to have the collector to feel they have something special in this case, So and I feel that just to make a drawing like this, to be honest, took me over a month, So and the fact that I was able to come up with a satisfying way of animating them, it just made me extremely happy, So yeah, this series of reels is really like. The initial idea was this idea of like silent film, how we get into the metaverse, where everything started, and of course everything started with photography and then with silent film, and then where we're heading, we're heading to the metaverse. Let's build it, let's start to build it, and this historical character, in this case there is Napoleon and Italian revolutionary Garibaldi. They are transport into a sort of like pixelized metaverse, look like background, so yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that I'm trying to bring all of my knowledge and all of the skills that I develop in traditional war to try to start to build the next generation, like post-physical war, So this is an attempt, of course, and I feel very, very satisfied and very proud of these 3 pieces.
And these are absolutely beautiful pieces. So we have, and like I said, I'm going to reiterate again that they're all editions that are only one of one. So this is the only one that will exist having this, Napoleon and Garibaldi dancing together. They're
Yeah.
doing, it says that they're in a surreal world where they dance and flirt endlessly. So you're, have a little bit of some, I guess, putting aside reality and creating this entirely new universe where these characters are perhaps behaving unexpectedly and yet still
Exactly.
believable.
Exactly, and also with the idea that all of these characters, they are transported into a new dimension, and they don't have to behave as ethically and as perfect as they're supposed to be in the history book. So the fact we transported this character, like for example, this character is a founding father, a generic character with a Native American chief. They are obviously being enemy, but suddenly they're dancing a sort of like a country dance, like a waltz, something that basically it defy completely history. We're living in a dimension in which like history is completely collapsed, and that's what is really intriguing for me, that obviously each of the character just the way that I draw, they are a story itself, but by just juxtaposing them in this weird, friendly, pose, they completely dismantle the historical narrative, So, and that's what, I think imagination is for, to really be able to project, an idea far beyond from reality, but still there is a seed in reality that obviously people they can, read an open narrative.
Mhm. Well, and that's an interesting thing because in order to create something that is, a fantasy or fantastical, you have to have enough reality that people will believe the narrative that you're selling. And
Oh,
so
absolutely.
like this is, super fun having Warren Buffett with a poodle, but in this very classic attire.
Well, and I tell you this, the reason of this character that came to me, it was totally influenced by the crypto world and by NFT, because before I jump into the crypto world, I never heard about the word dinosaur. So Warren Buffett is considered one of the dinosaurs of the economic war. And of course, he was anti-crypto and all of this kind of thing. So, and to me, I thought, what better is to dress Warren Buffett as a 16th century English noble with a poodle in a pose of Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, what is the best metaphor to represent that this is a living character thinking like in the 16th century? And I said, wow, this is it, So, and that's how these things that they generate, with basically thinking that Warren Buffett completely missed the idea of crypto and decentralized world because, of course, he has plenty of money that there needs to be part. And the way to representing him as like a person that lost the train of crypto, I have to basically dress him as a 15th century, 16th century man, that was like, and to ridicule him with a poodle, this kind of thing, and I thought that was like, I was very happy about this piece.
Well, and it's a very interesting thing too, because when you think about it, a lot of what the metaverse and the crypto world stands for directly undermines what it is that people like Warren Buffett stand for and the institutions that have held them up for so long. So,
Yeah, I
that
agree. I
is a
agree.
very, very interesting narrative to, continue exploring for people.
and and this is not new for me because since I've been an artist in New York, I was always trying to undermine even the traditional artwork, a traditional artwork was based on paintings and pictures, and I was doing video animation by gaming technology. So this is a very comfortable feeling, which I am, which I've been, exposed for 20 years, basically to be a disruptor, So I don't know if it's a great thing is to be a disruptor, because definitely on a short term, they kick in your head all the time. But hopefully in the long term, they will see you as a visionary, so. And to me, the NFT world was, I feel at home immediately because there were a bunch of disruptors, and I feel at home, and I'm happy to join it, and I hope I can bring my strength and my experience and my my intensity and my deep conviction in what I'm making to inspire a new generation of artists. Being an artist, you have to be very strong and you have to believe in what you do. Beside, all of the critics that you're going to receive, you really have to believe in your guts and to move forward. So, and I felt the NFT space is, there is a bunch of artists I admire that they have the same characteristics that I have.
And there are definitely a lot of amazing disrupting artists in the NFT space, and it's really interesting, right? Because a lot of art is about creating a message and sharing a message, and you can't do that unless you have a message to share, so things like the social commentary and kind of doing the disrupting, like that's how you end up getting the change that you're looking for. And so being able to push that forward and have the tools to create those messages is really amazing. And more than that, sharing that with the community and letting people continue that narrative.
Yeah, and I would like to add something like when you are, and do political social commentary work, you also to be prepared to be attacked. You have to be prepared that people will take you down, and but at the same time, like if you are very strong and very well prepared, nobody's going to take you down. No way, because like. The experience, the career, and the body of work that any artist develop is basically like a weaknesses of their strength. So because if you're able to last for so long and keep growing and keep making great work and keep developing a great base of collector, museum exhibition, and galleries. So I mean, at the end, nobody can attack you. Actually, you become one of the few people that they really can say what they think, because a CEO of a company cannot say what really they think, because they're so politicized and corporate, that at the end, if you think about it very clearly, who are the people that really can say what they think? Artists, for sure, are one of the few people in the position, if they are sincere and they're not worried about the consequence, that they can see what the hell they want, and that's amazing. Like, that's worth the journey. It's really worth the journey.
It is. And it's an interesting thing too, because there's a difference between saying whatever you want and having the body of work to back it up. And that's definitely an
Exactly.
important thing to differentiate between, because like somebody had mentioned in chat, anyone who's anonymous on the internet can say
Exactly.
whatever they want, but will it have the weight to be able to move people? That's the difference.
Exactly. Well, the weight comes out by the risk taking that you're able to willing to take, and it comes out by the support of you have from critics, artists.
It looks like we might have.
Oh, you're back.
There we go.
I
I
think
say
I
we
missed you
briefly
for a
lost
few
you.
seconds. I
Yes.
think now I'm back. I just went to the other studio. Okay, so
Welcome back.
are we back? Yeah. You see, like, let me show you to your viewer, like, so you see, this is a series of drawings that are extremely complicated, like, that I did, I did in the past few months, but that's the kind of commitment that you need to have in order to make a statement, so it's like as you said, in order to make a strong statement, you have to back it up, and an artist back it up with work, with a body of work.
Yes, and definitely looking at your body of work, that's something that you're known for, being able to make those statements. And it's really amazing having the opportunity, for you to be doing these drops on Makersplace, looking at this, these juxtapositions of these characters dancing, who I'm certain would probably not have ever found themselves in these positions otherwise.
Yeah.
And
One thing
it's a unique
I would like to
opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm very pleased. One of the things that maybe is worth it to say, that the idea of the dancer, especially in this in this body of work, it came to me by observing an artist that I was never really particularly interested in, which was Renoir, So he did a series of paintings in which there were, a bunch of bourgeoisie couple that were dancing in a cafe, and they were speaking to me, and I said, how can I reinterpret this idea of joy, because the idea was that after the pandemic, once in a lifetime, I wanted to make something joyful, because I've always been involved in very dark political and dystopian work influenced by writers like George Orwell and all of this kind of Aldous Huxley. So I said, man, I want to do something joyful, and I became very interested about a painting by Matisse, which I think was made in 1906, 1907. It was called the Bonheur au Vivre, the Joie de Vivre, And I say, shit, now I have to make something happy, And I decide to create this series of drawings of all of these evil leaders that somehow they were embracing themselves in this enchanted atmosphere. They were embracing and simulating and were getting along so great, So yeah, that's how that's how deep things goes. Influence from writers. Then we have silent cinema. Then we have Renoir, The Pose. Then we have Neil Stephenson, Snow Crash, the Metaverse. And that's how, that's the space in which this work was conceived, Matisse, the joie de vivre, So that's how things are so complex. They seem so simple, but they're not.
Well, nothing ever is.
At least in my life, some people, they get it very, very nicely. I always found that, I always have to find the hard way, but I mean, at the end, I'm always able to make it happen. So I guess I should be happy about it, Stop complaining,
It would be an entirely different work of art if there was not the complaints, so I suspect. Because having, even in the happiness, that little bit of edginess and darkness is what makes this very characteristically, part of your portfolio. And I think that's really exciting for collectors to get something that, yes, is happy, but also still feels very you.
Well, I mean, I would never put anything out that doesn't feel like me, because again, the things that I care the most in my career was never money. It was about legacy, So and I feel that this work is really respecting where I am today. I'm like a guy that worked many years in new technology and arts, and now I'm very focused on showing the draftsmanship that I have by bringing, these drawings that are belonging to a sort of metaverse, but I'm traducing it into two-dimensional work on wood panel, and then they become NFT and become animated. So I would never put anything into the space that I don't feel 100% proud and 100% that will increase the legacy of the work that I did in many years, because at the end, what's really important is that you show that what you make is relevant. I'm not there just to try to sell 3 NFT. I would never give a damn about selling 3 NFT, for the sake of selling 3 NFT, So.
Mm-hmm. But these definitely adding to your legacy and making sure that, people are able to appreciate the art for what it is and for the artist behind it. And this is something that, your drop is going live in 1 hour and 32 minutes from now. So we're getting really close.
I got to open some champagne, some Prosecco, some cheap champagne.
You prepared. Perfect.
I'll prepare.
Very good. Well, this is something that I know we're getting to that hour mark, so I don't want to hold you because I'm sure that you have lots of preparations to, get ready to celebrate with Makerspace as your art
Yeah.
drops go live, but also, for the whale community and everybody checking it out, make sure that you're checking out Federico's social medias. I've posted those in the Discord, as well as the Makerspace, the super rare pieces of work. There's definitely a lot here to explore. It's an amazing collection, and we really appreciate you joining us today to talk more about your art and inspiration. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will close up the stream for today. We will make sure that we get people directed over to be checking out your work, and we will definitely be wishing you luck on the drop here in the next
Thank
hour
you.
and a
Thank you
half.
very much, guys. Bye-bye from New York City. I hope to see you in New York. Bye.
Yeah. Goodbye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Have a
Thank you
good
so
day.
much. Thank you so
Thank
much. Bye.